This program features live coverage of an African safari and may include animal kills and carcasses. Viewer discretion is advised.
Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to Ngala, and a special warm welcome to all of the families and the kids out there. Just a reminder, the first 45 minutes is dedicated to kids, and we'll be answering the kids' questions. And we are joined by families from India, the US, the UK, and I think South Africa. I might have missed one or two other countries, but we have started with one absolutely amazing way to start the afternoon is this young male leopard, and this is exactly the same male that we saw a little bit earlier on this morning, who we had a very, very brief view of, and he was hunting. We decided to just have a quick little loop around the area to see if we could find him. Marcel and I both thought we weren't going to see him or find him very quickly, and literally the first road we turned onto, he was lying right in the middle of the road. Since then, there's been some impalas alarm calling, which has caused him to pick up his head, and now he's up and moving around a little bit, and that's why we've decided to give him a little bit of spaces. We don't want to disrupt whatever he's going on. We don't want to chase away the impalas that might be close by that he can hear calling, and we just want to give him some time to just take it in before he decides to move. So we're trying not to interfere with him as much as we can. We know that he was hunting this morning, and he's got a very thin belly still. Look at him, he's even sharpening his claws now. So that's just stretching the tendons in his muscles. So Wyatt is asking if monkeys, cheetahs or leopards swim all the way from Iowa. And yeah, definitely Wyatt. I think all three of them can swim. I know that leopards can. They don't like water. They're just like a normal house cat. If you see a house cat around water, they try to avoid it as much as possible. And monkeys can too. I've seen videos. I've never seen it myself, but I've seen videos on a very, very hot day of monkeys and baboons jumping into some swimming pools to cool down, and it looks like they have the most fun. But there's some areas that, like in the Okavango Delta, where they just don't have the choice. They have to move through water to get to places, and that's when leopards and maybe cheetahs, I would say cheetahs out of leopards and cheetah would probably be the least likely one to swim.
We had a monkey chased by another one and it fell into the pool a few weeks ago.
Marcel's saying that he had two monkeys chasing each other around, and one slipped into the pool and battled to get out. So we're not going anywhere. We'll stick with him and hopefully catch him on the move, maybe see if he moves closer towards those impalas we could hear in the distance. But we're going to send you across to James, and he'll say hello for the afternoon.
What a start to the drive, a male leopard to begin. We have got a lovely road, a couple of bushes, some clouds and trees. My name is James Henry. On camera today is Owen, and we are very much enjoying the early winter afternoon with its very picturesque grey clouds floating overhead here on the western fringes of the Greater Limpopo Transfrontier Park. I hope you're all having a good day. Star Wars Day today, apparently. May the 4th be with you. I've never heard that before. It's probably because I've had my head under a pillow or in the sand. Please talk to us, of course, for the first 45 minutes. If you're a youngster, you can do that using the email address kidsquestions@wildearth.tv. Even if you're not quite so much a youngster, 16 to 18, even 15 is not so young anymore, is it? So you can also send us your questions. And remember to just give us your age so that I know vaguely how to pitch my answer. It's no good launching into a great treatise on the physiology of surface area to volume ratio to a 3-year-old who's asked whether or not mice are scary to elephants. Right? Right. Good. We're heading down towards Chitwa slowly. That is the reserve to the southeast of Juma, where we are now. And it is there that Kuchava, the leopardess, had her cub this morning. Well, she didn't have her cub. She did have her cub. She didn't give birth to her cub this morning. Her cub was birthed some 7 months ago, and they had an impala kill. They had stashed it in a bush. I'm hoping that it'll still be there when we get there, and that we'll have a lovely afternoon with beautiful light cast upon their golden pelages, that means fur, for the course of the afternoon. If not, well, we'll make the best of whatever it is that comes along. Trishala found Kuchava and her cubby yesterday. So we shall thank her, doff our hats, and say we'll take that for now. George, you don't need any specific kind of a qualification to do what I do. I know people who have done guiding with computer degrees, people with no degrees who've been in the army, one guy who was a cash and transit vehicle driver, people with advanced degrees in biology, people with degrees in accounting, and all of them had to go through the same process of training. Now that depends where you go. If you go to a place like andBeyond, which is where Eric works, then they'll put you through an internal training process, and that can be pretty arduous, but it's really good, it's really comprehensive, and so that's a good place to go. Otherwise, you could go to the place where Taylor is. I think we're going to meet Taylor this afternoon again. She's at Eco Training Karongwe Camp. They've got commercially done ranger training courses. You could do those ones. Otherwise, there are quite a few around. Those two are probably the best that there are, genuinely, not just because we're involved with them. So you don't have to have any qualification. I always say to people, well, if you can do a degree, then you probably should, because it does leave you with quite a good grounding in biology. I mean, a biological degree, and that makes understanding the way that this ecology fits together a lot better. And I have worked with people who have done other kinds of qualifications, non-biological ones, and they have picked up the very specific knowledge very quickly. So what bird and what tree is that and that sort of stuff, but they've taken a little bit more time to understand the ecology, so how things fit together, evolutionary biology and that sort of stuff, which is best learned, I suppose. Well, I mean, you can learn it anywhere. There are books available, there are good articles online that you can read on this sort of stuff, but it's easier to understand in a university setting when you've got mentors who can kind of explain stuff to you. But there's no fixed way to do what, or learn to do what we do here. Let's go to Lauren now. She's got some elephants for you.
Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to your live safari. Now, I have an elephant walking towards me, so I'm going to have to reposition, but my name is Lauren, and this ginormous thumb you're about to see belongs to Davy. Oh no, they've turned. That's okay. You never want to put yourself in a position where you could be in the elephant's way, but I don't have to reposition now. So I'm very much looking forward to answering all your questions. Welcome on board to all the families that we have today from various parts of the world. USA, UK, India, and Spain. I'm sure there's many more as well, so it's great to have you on board. The elephants have just been drinking. We raced round here. Gabby, you are 6 years old and 3/4. I'm so glad you mentioned that, or I would have thought you were 6, so you're almost 7. Oh, there's a little grebe down there. Let's just say hi to it. Can you see it from here, Dobby? Before we go after the elephants. Gabby, oh, did you see it just go under? They're specialised divers, these little grebes. You're asking what is my favourite thing to do. Gabby, this is my favourite noise for sure. Isn't it lovely? It's my favourite bird call. After the orange-breasted bushshrike. My favourite thing to do is to bumble around. Many people will laugh at that, but it's true. I like to go out with no plan, no thoughts in my head, with Davy, and together we just drive. We don't know what we're going to see. It might be some cool birds. It might be frogs. I found a snake this morning in camp. It might be really cool impala action. A herd of elephants. Or I might get really, really lucky, Gabby, and find some leopards. My favourite thing to do is just to bumble around. It's also my favourite expression. Oh, you can see them. You can see that little youngster. I'm going to park up here for you, Davy. They're going down into the drainage, which is not ideal. You okay?
A little bit back.
A little bit back. Oh. Lily, you are 6 years old from the United Kingdom, same as me. I'm from Scotland. And you're asking, why do elephants have tusks? Well, they have tusks for a number of reasons. Both males and female have tusks, Lily. But sometimes you can find elephants that don't have any tusks. But generally speaking, they should do. And they use them for feeding. So you'll sometimes find an elephant digging on the ground with its tusks if it really wants something. But normally you'll find them stripping the bark of trees. So they'll use their tusks to cut into the bark of various different trees, and they'll pull off all the dead bark, which is the bark that we can see with our eyes, because they want to get to the inner bark inside, which is alive and very nutritious. And of course they'll use them in self-defense. So if they are being attacked by another elephant or any other tall mammal, they can use their tusks, especially the males. Older males are notorious for fighting, and sometimes it can be very serious. So when they fight, they will use their tusks for self-protection, Lily. So lots of different reasons: feeding, self-protection, and fighting. I love seeing a herd of elephants. We're going to try and stay with these elephants as long as we can. If they go into the drainage, we won't be able to, but let's hope they don't. And as I sit here and enjoy, we're going to send you all the way across to andBeyond in Ngala with Eric and his leopard.
This male leopard is really treating us. He is walking right out in the open, and compared to what he was walking through this morning, we just get to watch him and follow him so much easier. And the lighting is perfect. He's absolutely beautiful the way that he's walking through the grass. And just look at the color of his golden coat and the color of the grass around him. It's just almost exactly the same color. So that's exactly what he'll be using to try and camouflage himself as he's looking for something to hunt. And for now, it doesn't look like he's actively hunting, but he might just be moving towards one of these little mud wallows on our left and trying to find something to drink. But I mean, think about it. It's 3 o'clock in the afternoon. It's about 26, 28 degrees Celsius, and this leopard is still feeling free to move around during the middle of the heat, which is quite special. And that's why it's such an awesome view to see him. Look at that tail twitching from side to side again. So we think that this is roughly the direction of those impalas that we heard earlier. He will probably have a much better idea of where they are. His hearing's much better than ours. So JC, you're asking about the weight of a leopard, and it depends. So males and females have got very different weights. Males are much bigger than females, and so they'll weigh, probably when they're fully grown, they will probably weigh in the region of about 160 to 180 pounds. A female is much lighter than that, and she'll probably weigh anywhere from 60 to 120 pounds. So their weight varies a lot. This individual that we are following now is a young male leopard, so he probably weighs close to a light female leopard. So he's probably, in the next 3 or 4 years of his life, will double in size. So from 60, he probably weighs a bit more than 60, maybe 80 pounds. He'll get up all the way up to about 160 pounds within the next few years. Unfortunately, he is probably not going to stick around too much longer, because the bigger he gets, the more threat he has to his father, and his father will probably try and chase him away. Can you see him, Marcel? Oh yeah, straight up ahead. And the reason why that he gets chased away by his father is his father doesn't want to share his land and his food, and probably even more importantly, the females that come with the land. And so for now, he's okay. He is getting to the age where that father will probably look to chase him away. Oh, that is just absolutely beautiful. you look very closely, if he does turn his head again, try and see if you can see the color of his nose. That will help. Oh, look, he's stood on a thorn. He's trying to get it off with his teeth. I've seen them get so frustrated by standing on a thorn. Here he comes. So look at that nose. I don't know if you got a quick view, but very, very pink. So still a very young leopard. He's only about just over 1 month, 2 years, 2 months, somewhere around there. So Lily, you've asked such a cool question about the leopard spots, and you're only 6 years old. And what I want you to look at is, as it's walking through the bushes, is just how quickly it disappears behind objects. And that's exactly what those spots are designed for. So they literally help break the outline of the leopard and just makes it camouflage, so it will be able to try and sneak up to prey as much as it can. And leopards are what we call ambush predators, so they like to surprise their prey. And so they try and find as many hiding spots as possible to get as close to the prey as they can. And so by having those spots, it allows them to literally blur with their background, and they'll easily be able to, or not easily, but it makes it a bit easier for them to sneak up to their prey. I mean, look, it doesn't take too much for us to lose the leopard. I mean, he's just walked behind the bushes in some shade and it's disappeared. And that's exactly the nature of the leopard. Alrighty, so we're going to keep following this leopard for as long as it takes, I guess. In the meantime, whilst we try and find him again, we're going to send you back to Lauren, who's still with the elephants. You see him?
Good luck, Eric, with your leopard. We've managed to keep up with this too. It's a mom. You may not be able to see her. She's slightly hidden in the thicket there, and her youngster. We got a little bit of a head shake and a trumpet from another young male back there. The males seem to be very naughty and boisterous these days. I don't quite know what it is. It must be a case of proving themselves. We are big and we are strong. I'm really not sure, but we're going to try and keep up with this mom and her youngster. I think they're part of the same herd we saw at the dam, but they've just sort of separated themselves. Elephants stay in constant communication with one another. They could be talking right now, we just can't hear them. Martin, you're 10 years old, and you're asking why do the elephants keep walking away from me? Well, I hope it's not because I smell too bad. It could be because Davy smells bad. No, I'm only joking, Martin. They're not actually walking away from us. They're just going about their daily lives. They're just feeding. Elephants are very mobile animals. They're always moving from water point to water point, to delicious bush to delicious bush, to all the lovely patches of grass and trees. So they're very mobile animals. They spend most of the day and most of the night actually walking and feeding. So they're not actually moving away from us at all. You can see this little youngster and this mama are quite calm, and we're positioned right next to them. But if you get elephants drinking, they'll be in the one place for a little while. But if they're feeding, they will just continue to move. They cover great distances in one day. Very, very relaxed pair. Catalina, you're 8 years old and you are wondering how the very thick, dense thicket that we're looking at. And that means that there's plenty of food for the elephants. They can eat and eat and eat. They don't actually have to travel too far. Whereas in summer, it's barren. A lot of the grass species will die, the trees will lose their leaves, and it will be a lot more challenging for elephants to find food. So in winter, they'll travel much further. So it really depends, Catalina, but they walk far. And they always look like they're moving so slowly and gracefully, which they are, but they really can pick up speed and cover great distances. Might not always be the mum, but the aunts, the cousins, the second cousins, the sisters, they will always be watched over by someone. It's too risky otherwise. And what I said earlier, they will always be talking. So we think they're silent. They can communicate in really low rumbles that the human ear cannot hear. The human ear cannot pick it up in any way, shape or form. So this mother and offspring could actually be having a conversation right now, and we would not know it. They're probably saying, there's a Scottish girl talking about us again. Can you believe it? No, in all seriousness though, there's lots of levels of elephant communication that humans can't pick up. That's another way to help keep the offspring safe and together, by constantly communicating to one another. Where are you guys? We're over here. We're going to go this way. Come here. In elephant language, of course. So the youngsters are always protected. It's the biggest investment for an elephant is his offspring. They're pregnant for 22 months. Can you believe that? That's almost 2 years. Over double the length of human pregnancy. So it's a big investment for as long as we can. And while we watch and admire them, we are going to send you guys back across to Eric with this leopard.
But has moved too far from where we left. He's moved a bit. And definitely where he is going, look at that. That is just amazing. So that was just a flop around and probably just to get a bit of exfoliation, I guess, with the coarse sand. I wonder if it doesn't help mask his scent a little bit. But he usually will do that around elephant dung or even buffalo dung to try and hide the scent of him. And I've noticed that he's been walking with two things towards his advantage. So we were talking a bit earlier, I think Lily was asking about the spots on a leopard, and I was just mentioning a little bit about camouflage and how he uses it. Two things that he's using around him are things that we probably don't often think about when a cat needs to hunt. And the first thing is wind. So he's walking straight into the wind. So his scent is blowing from his side all the way to our side, so from right to left. And then, so that allows him to smell things, and it allows that scent of his to get carried away. And then another thing that he's doing, I've just kind of realized now, is he's walking straight into the sun. And so if an ant is looking this direction, straight sun, and the heavy glare is probably going to be a bit too much for them to manage to scan properly. So that's another way that he'll be using cover effectively, which is nice to see because it means that he's starting to grasp the concept of hunting. And it's something that his mother would have probably taught him, but it's now something that he's had to try and figure out himself. I'm sure you saw that impenetrable wall of bush that he went towards, so we're going to try and loop around now. I'm going to have to get through this little gap here. Yeah, but it's just such a privilege to be able to follow this animal for so long. Now we're approaching the road, and I'm hoping he's going to come straight towards us. Alrighty, alright. So there's a big tree on the right that we last saw him walking towards. We passed through this clearing. So another thing that he's using with the sun is he's using the shade. I mean, it's a lot harder for us to see something in the dark, and so he's going from shade spot to shade spot to shade spot to try and make sure that he remains as hidden as possible. So he's grasping this concept really well. Okay, so everyone's going to have to put it
like is getting himself into some very, very hot water there by suggesting a poll of that nature. Here we have found our quarry. I mean, embarrassingly, I can't tell if this is the mother or the cub. We've just got here right now. Looks like the cub to me. Ah, it's not the cub, it's the mother. Thank you for that, Louise. Apparently the cub's much smaller. God, I'm really so useless at this stuff. My ability to recognize animals is utterly appalling. You must never believe anything I say about who they are. Louise, they go hand in hand. She says that my ability to judge the size of animals is also not that great. They go hand in hand, Louise. It is a region of my brain that was obviously damaged when I was playing rugby. That's not really true. That is not an unpleasant image to be looking at, I must say. She is a lovely looking cat, this. Louise says she looks just like her mother. Now, I'm going to disagree strongly and say that I don't think she does look like her mother. But, I mean, as we just worked out, I really am in no position to say. No? Is it... who's in age 10 in the UK? Hello, Sarah. No, Sarah, she would not jump down onto our car unless we drove underneath it and said, "Here, kitty, kitty, kitty." But even then, she probably wouldn't. So no, she wouldn't jump down onto the car, Sarah. What she would do if she got really scared, though, Sarah, is come down the tree and run. No. Suhana, there are probably some black leopards in South Africa. I suspect very strongly that there are none in this part of the world. You hear rumours every so often about there being a black leopard around, but I don't think there are any around this particular area. Now, the reason for that is that this is not ideal habitat for a black leopard. Black leopard's ideal habitat would be thick jungle or forest rather than this woodland. And so black leopards, which do occur in your part of the world, obviously they occur in India, not in huge numbers, but they are there, would occur much more in the forested areas of Africa, like the Congo, for example. But not so much here. This is very much a woodland environment. And so you wouldn't expect them to be here. Does that answer your question? I hope it does. Arohi, that's an interesting question. Do female leopards have different marks from male leopards? No, they don't. They have the same markings. You wouldn't be able to tell a male leopard from a female from the markings. You would from their size. You would from their shape, because a male leopard is bulkier than a female. But you wouldn't be able to tell it from their spots. It's not like males have bigger spots or uglier spots. If that makes sense. Tyler, I don't think that they can smell their prey from very far, if it's alive. So, if a leopard is going to hunt an impala, and the impala is alive, then I don't think they can smell them from very far, probably from further than you and I could smell them, but I don't think from far. They use their hearing and their eyes more to hunt than they do their senses of smell. But if she was to scavenge, and remember that leopards do a lot of scavenging, which means that they'll go and eat meat that's been provided by other predators, then definitely she'll be able to smell it from at least, I watched a leopard once find a dead zebra from about 2.5 to 3 kilometers away. She's posing beautifully for us up there. Now, I often say to people, they say, well, why do leopards sleep in trees? And I say, well, they don't really. They normally sleep on the ground and then only go into trees if they're looking around or if there's a kill and they've got the kill in the tree. And I think what she's probably doing up here is looking out. She's got a cub somewhere around here in the thick bush, I suspect, with the kill. And so she's almost acting as a security guard that high up in the tree. She can look around in all directions and see if everyone's safe. She's doing a lovely job of showing herself to us. It's very kind of her. Magnificent animal, isn't she? Alrighty, let's go back across to the northeast of Juma now with Lauren and find out what's at the Buffelshoek Dam.
Not much is at Buffelshoek Dam. But I am going to stop and hopefully try to spot a hippo. We do have some resident hippos in here that I enjoy watching. But I can't see them. And of course they submerge underwater because they're experts at holding their breath. Hello, lapwing. The lapwing's not too happy to see us. That's a blacksmith lapwing. Tick, tick, ding, 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 ding. You hear that? It sounds like a hammer hitting an anvil. Davy, am I losing my mind or can I not see any hippos?
No, but I do see some grebes.
Okay, we don't see the hippos, but we do see the grebes. Is that the grebes?
Yep.
Oh. How sweet, 2 little ones. I don't think I've had the pleasure of meeting these ones yet. Oh, this lapwing is very unhappy. Duffy's right up there. He was right above the guard. Lapwings are very temperamental. Okay, I am baffled. Oh, the hippo's there. Sophia, you're 8 years old, and Fiona, you're 6 years old, and you're asking about insects. Yes, in summer, insects are everywhere. They will land on all the animals and annoy them. You can see many animals, especially leopards, get very annoyed when the flies land on them. And they will land on people too. In summer, there's insects everywhere. In your face, in your food, in your bedroom, outside, in the vehicle. But I love it. I don't particularly love when they land on my face, but I do love all the insects. And as we go into winter out here, it's going to change, and most of those insects will completely disappear. We won't see butterflies anymore or many moths. Spiders will disappear. Spiders are not classified as insects, but they will also disappear, which, well, maybe that's a good thing for me. Grasshoppers, stick insects, all of these creatures will disappear as winter comes. Well, thank you for saying hi, hippos. It was a pleasure. We're going to continue east. There's lots of areas I want to check today, and as I do that, it appears Eric has got some stripy animals for you.
The bush has got a very uncanny way of making you very humble. So I think that leopard heard us being very competitive and quite cheeky, and it decided to show us and teach us a lesson. So it disappeared literally as soon as I was trying to get you guys to compete against each leopard. But it was a trick question because no leopard is better than another one. But we did manage to trade those little spots for some stripes. And we're with a nice big herd of zebra around this area. See that one right in the middle with its head down? You can just see its face. It's one of the smallest ones that we've seen in this herd, and the rest are quite big. So I think it's just a small family. So this would be a male with 3 or 4 mares or females and a couple of older offspring. They also seem to be getting their afternoon started. They've got their heads low down to the ground. They're feeding on some nice long grass. I'm sure eventually they'll probably want to try and find some place to drink. And they've still got a long afternoon and even longer night ahead of them. You need to keep a lookout, especially with that little young one. Look out for any predators around the area. So they'd like to move out into a nice big open space where they can use their eyesight and hopefully spot any potential threat before it gets close to them. Taylor's asking how the stripes help camouflage the zebras, and it's a little bit of a weird thing to look at because you in an area where it's full of greens and browns and golden colors, and then you've got a black and white zebra in the middle of the bush. So it's a bit counterintuitive, but these zebras, there's a number of theories, but one of the reasons or one of the ways that these zebras help blend in with one another is that predators will see in pretty basic color, so they can't really distinguish colors too well, and they basically are hiding in plain sight. So with a whole bunch of zebra in and amongst one another, those black and white stripes become very hard for the predators to distinguish in an individual itself. And especially when they're moving around, so the black and the white almost create this optical illusion. As they're moving, it seems like they're crisscrossing one another, and it might be quite difficult for them to pick out and single out an individual within a herd. I think one of the latest studies is a zebra. No, it was done in Europe actually, where they put a black and white striped blanket on a horse, and they were determining what was the reason for the stripes. And I think that they started to realize that flies had an issue coming into land. They would see the stripes and it would almost confuse them, and less stripes on the horses, or less flies on the horses with stripes landed on horses without them.
There's also theories that it causes localized airflow.
Yeah, also, there's lots of different theories, and I think the more you talk about it, the more elaborate and the more complicated you can get. But with the black and the white, some say that it's a slightly different temperature, and so it creates a very slow airflow over the body, and it helps keep the zebras cooler for longer. Okay, so I think we're going to leave these zebras and let them carry on feeding. We are on the way towards a waterhole to see if we can find anything going down to drink in the late afternoon light.
Here we are with Shidulu. Not Shidulu. I lost my mind completely. Well, with Java, we've done a loop around to see if we can find the kill. We found the kill. The youngster is not in the bush with the kill, so I'm sure she's in these bushes somewhere. But I just thought, let's come back and look at Shidulu because she got up, Kuchava, because she got up and turned around. And so we've got a slightly different angle on her. Not very different, but slightly different. Yes, Izzy, you know, they are exactly like fingerprints. They're unique to each leopard. And I want you to think about this for a second. Often you'll hear guides saying things like, did you know that all zebras' stripes are unique, that none of them have the same stripes as their friends? You know, they're all completely unique. And in biology, that's really not unusual, Izzy. What would be much more unusual is if all zebras had exactly the same kinds of stripes. So you'll very seldom find animals that look identical to each other. Animals, especially with any form of complicated marking, they'll never look the same. So leopards, tigers, even lions and their various different kinds of coloration, buffalo, they look very different from each other. And although people like me find it difficult to recognize one from t'other, they are, in fact, very different. Same as hyenas, and it would be
Oh, sorry about that. I have no idea where James has disappeared to. But you're with us. We just did a road I probably haven't travelled in forever. Actually, it was Davi's idea. We thought, we'll go and check it. It's a very beautiful road, but sadly no animals. So my plan is just to scratch around the east and then come in to see Ribbon. Davi and I got very, very lucky with Ribbon maybe a week ago now, because I've been trying to work out when she suckles, when she nurses. The cubs are still small enough, at just over a month now, approaching 5 weeks, I think, to need to be fed regularly. They can't be abandoned for long periods of time throughout the day. So we got really, really lucky when we went there and they were out, and they were out for a really long time, pushing an hour. So I'm hoping that if we go to the den earlier today, we might be lucky enough to get the same sort of action. So once I've checked the east, we'll slowly head in and spend some time with good old rip robs. I hear the den is becoming very active as well with lots of other hyenas, which is a good thing. Sooner or later, they will all properly be introduced to the cubs. And hyenas are very, very, emotional is not the right word, but they're very reactive animals. So it's really, really interesting to see them when they get very, very excited. And that's what's going to happen when they get introduced to the cubs. They'll be very, very excited. There'll be lots of vocalizations. So I think the den's a great place to start today, once I've just covered the east. Okay, 45 minutes already is over. So thank you, kids and families, for all your comments and questions. We are going to open the drive now to everybody, take questions from anyone who asks them. But kids, please still stay on board. We will still answer your questions as well. So welcome, adults. You are now live with us on the vehicle. Now, I normally check the east for Kuchava, but obviously we know Kuchava is down south in Cheetah. So I wonder if we'll pick up on any signs of this Tandy. And as I search, it appears that James has got his picture back.
There we are. Sorry about that. I don't know what happened there or why we lost picture, but we did, and now we're back, which is very nice. I will do a little turnaround and have a look and see if I can find the cub shortly. I'm wondering if she's not going to come up here, or if I won't start to hear the telltale crunch of bone as she sets or has at the kill. Yeah, I don't know how many offspring Kuchava's had. I should probably know. I'll look it up for you. I don't know how many surviving offspring she has. I've forgotten all of this stuff, of course, because my brain is just too small and too occupied with other things to remember this stuff. I'll get back to you in a second. I'm pretty sure that none of them have survived to adulthood. The last one she had was such a sweet little male. Well, no, not the last one. The one before the last was such a sweet little male. So, here we go. I shall just quickly find... Oh, there she is, Kuchava. Yeah, no. None surviving. Male died July 2018. He was the first one. He was a delightful little one. That's the one I was talking about. And then there was a December, January, both cubs of 2019. And both cubs disappeared. And then this is her third effort, born in October 2019. Apparently there were two. That's right, there were two. I remember that now. One died. And there's a female here that has survived. Alrighty, now we have very exciting news. We have got our mountain expert there in the shade of the Drakensberg, Taylor McCurdy. She's going to say hello to us from Waterhole.
My goodness, thank you so much for the warm welcome, James. We are at Chippenberry Dam, one of my favorite spots. And now I need to... Sorry, I've compromised my position. This doesn't always agree with where my ponytail and my hat and everything is. My name is Taylor, and on camera with me today is still Alex. He shall be on camera with me for some days to come. And like I said, we're at Chip Dam. I've now shortened it from Chippenberry Dam to Chip Dam because I think it's a bit complicated for some of you to say. Here at Karongwa Game Reserve. And it is a lovely afternoon. Gentle breeze. What are you looking for, Alex? The goslings. Oh, we wanted to do a gosling count. Now, there's obviously a number of different creatures at Chippenberry Dam, as we've discovered. The last time we were here, there was a war with this family of Egyptian geese and some intruders. And we counted 6 goslings. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, I think they're all here. 2, 4, 6, yes. So all 6 goslings are still alive, which is really good news. And again, they seem to do the same thing every afternoon, just enjoying and bathing in the golden light, learning to preen those feathers, and they cannot fly just yet. So they're still going to molt and get some adult feathers coming through. But like I said, it's a nice day, a bit hazy, but you saw that this morning. If you did watch a sunrise safari, there was a bit of a haze coming in, making the Drakensberg Mountains in the background a bit difficult to see, but still gorgeous nonetheless. It's best we check that the mountains are still there, that they haven't grown on legs, or perhaps, as the name suggests, erupted out of the ground like a dragon and taken to the sky. But I don't think that will be happening anytime soon. Perhaps season 9 of Game of Thrones. No, I'm just joking. That's me being silly. I'll go back to being serious now. The Hammerkorp is flying around. We're going to wait for it to come back because I think if we sit here for long enough, it will fly back and ride the hippopotamus backs, as it gave us great entertainment the last time we were here. Still the same amount of hippos, just enjoying themselves up and down in the water. Our little hippopotamus, the youngest of the raft, having a snooze, as they would do. And today must have been quite a pleasant day for the hippos because it wasn't too hot. And you know, they stay in the water to keep nice and cool, but they're also super susceptible to sunburn. And they can't sweat to keep cool like we do. So that water is very, very important, as well as, of course, the secretion, that oily substance that they do secrete, the hipposudoric acid, to help prevent them from getting sunburnt. Did you see the hammerkorp flying? So the reason why I'm fascinated by the hammerkorp today is not because of its hippo riding capabilities, but because of the sound that it's been making. Now I'm hoping that it will turn and fly back towards us, and maybe we'll get to hear the strange sound. There's also a little pied wagtail just to the right of it as well. You can see it just there. So there's some nice birds here today. But I want to tell you about the hammerkorp sound, but maybe it will make it. Now it's just flying off. Okay, now when it flies there, it normally turns back and flies towards us, doesn't it? There we go. We've got it worked out. Then it lands on the log for a bit of a break, or you're going to keep coming. Have you got it in you? No? It's like I've seen this before. Sorry, it does make me giggle a little bit that this hammerkorp does the same thing every time we come here. So it's been calling. It's been very vocal this afternoon, but not in the way that it normally does call. Sadly, I haven't installed my bird app on my phone properly just yet. I've been struggling with a decent internet connection, so I'd play the call, but it's doing a half-hearted call, which makes it sound like it's inhaled a bit of helium. So it's quite high-pitched and quite humorous.
Can you imitate the sound?
Alex, who's on camera, has now asked me to imitate the sound. I will try as we watch the hammerkorp. Please fly towards us, hammerkorp. It's going wah, 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 but it doesn't do the wah, 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 parts. It just does the, and then the wah. And literally Alex and I looked at one another and we couldn't see the hammerkorp, and we thought, what on earth is making that sound? So we figured it out. We sat and we realized that it was the hammerkorp when it finished its call. But it was quite amusing. I think it's just a bit tired. I don't know where the second one is. It was around a little bit earlier. But just as we watched this this beautiful bird, I did want to tell you that this morning the 3 male cheetah were found, but sort of right towards the end of the show, and it's too far of a distance to drive all the way there. But it seems as though they've been located this afternoon. I don't know if we're going to have signal. We are going to test it out, but I didn't want to disappear until I got to show you this beautiful view. They're in an area that we have not driven before, and it's sort of southeast of where we are right now. So fingers crossed, everybody, that the powers that be that control the signal within this area, please bless us. Look at this. Great camera work by Alex. Amazing. Now land on the hippo. No, not today. We'll just keep watching this bird because it's quite entertaining. This must be the strongest flying hammerkorp I've ever seen in my life. You know, I'd understand if it was going up and down fetching nesting material. Completely understandable, but it's not. It's just literally doing laps around the dam. Now, Chris, who I think is 6, you've asked about cheetah and lions living together. They do live in the same areas, and there are leopards, lions, and cheetah here at Karongwe Game Reserve. Can you believe that? All of them. But they don't like one another. Lions are obviously the biggest and the strongest of the cats, and they're the ones to be. Oh, sorry, Chris is 15 years old. Sorry, Chris. My apologies. I didn't hear very well. It's perhaps my age. So they do live in the same area, but the cheetah are very good at trying to avoid those big predators, so leopards and lions, and also hyenas. Unfortunately, they're not so good at protecting their kills, and they're much smaller, even though they're quick, and they'll try and run away wherever they can. If a leopard or a lion finds them, or even the cheetah battle one another, they're going to have a big argument, and it's not going to end very well. If a lion catches a cheetah. So the cheetahs will definitely, if they get any indication that there are any other big predators around, they're going to move. They're going to go in the opposite direction. They're not very silly. I also like all these dead trees that are sitting here, which is quite nice. With all the nests. Those are red-billed buffalo weaver nests, in case you were wondering. Right, now we're going to head off down southeast of us to try and show you the 3 male cheetah that roam around on Karongwe Game Reserve. However, Lauren is bounding about in Juma, and she's on a road called Cheetah Cutline.
Haha, see what you did there, Taylor? I'm on cheetah cut line, and Taylor's looking for her cheetahs. Good luck, I hope she finds them. I never find cheetahs on cheetah cut line. Maybe one day there was cheetahs on cheetah cut line, but it still baffles me to this day. Anyway, an update. Apparently, James's vehicle, Rusty, we're no longer using the Mahindra, as you may have noticed. I actually don't know what's happened. What has happened, Darby? Man down. Rusty's down. That's as technical as I can get at this moment. So we are heading on in. So I'm going to retract my plan about Ribbon and head on in to see Kuchava and James to see if we can help in any way. But I don't think we can. And take over the Kuchava sighting. So that is my update now. I'm not heading to Ribbon, unfortunately. I really do want to see how my Rib Robs is doing. I really love that hyena, as you all know. So we're heading south. That's why we're on cheetah cut line with no cheetahs. It will take us a bit to get there, though. I don't think it's immediately into Chitwa. Is it, Davi? You got to travel. Yeah, you got to drive a little bit far in. So we shall get there. There was talk of Shadulu being on the property as well today, and I really, really wanted to scratch around to see Shadulu. Oh, many of you are very sad for James, of course, but pleased I'm going to get to see Kuchava. Thank you. I have not seen Kuchava since Davi and I actually had her on a fresh Impala kill in Chitwa in December. I'm also pleased that I'm going to get to see Kuchava. I think she is Tandy's double. If you didn't know Kuchava was Tandy's daughter, in my opinion, but just by looking at them, you would know. Mother like daughter, daughter like mother. Oh, wee. Sorry, Darby, that bump was a little bit bigger than I anticipated. So yes, it'll be so nice for me to see her. I'm just going to pick up a little bit of speed and try and drive sensibly at the same time. And we will take over from that sighting. So that's the update from my side. I'm going to put my pedal to the floor, and you guys are going to go across to Eric for an update.
We just went past that waterhole. We actually spent probably about 5 to 7 minutes or so there at that waterhole, and there wasn't any activity there. So Marcel and I decided to carry on with the original plan of the morning. If any of the viewers were watching, we actually set our goals out try and find some tracks of the pride of lions that has been seen, or the tracks were seen yesterday morning. They weren't found yesterday, and then we eventually found tracks of them crossing the river. But then we got distracted by wild dogs. So now that it's starting to cool down a little bit, Marcel and I have decided to start heading into that area of where the lions are and see if there's any sign of them. Hopefully get to see them up and moving around a little bit later if we manage to find them. So that's the plan for the next half an hour. We are moving towards some nice big open areas where hopefully there's going to be some general game species, lots of wildebeest, zebra, some impala around there too. So hopefully it will be productive this afternoon. Started off well. Leopard at Juma, leopard here in Ngala, elephants. Really special to be able to join you guys on these virtual safaris. Seems like it looks like it's almost a summer's day with the clouds in the background. It looks very stormy almost. These big cumulus clouds are something that you tend to only find in the summertime, but now they're just getting bigger and bigger. Looks like they're building. It doesn't look like there's going to be any rain, but it is nice to see that it's hot enough to be creating these clouds. In a very chipper mood in the vehicle. Marcel's obviously very happy with that's great. So I'm glad all of the viewers enjoyed the wild dog sighting, and I think Marcel enjoyed the wild dog sighting and the leopard sighting. The usual quiet Marcel has been very chipper. He's been singing non-stop the whole day, so hopefully his good mood translates to some good animals. Lou's apologizing for Marcel's voice, and yeah, it's my eardrum on my left hand side is almost broken, but lots and lots of elephant tracks on the road. I don't know if you managed to see them, but big piles of dung, and I think that might have been the whole the whole herd seemed to have been moving along this road all the way down towards the waterhole, and it must have been throughout the day, because when we were there, not much activity around there. So the elephants around this area probably have already had something to drink. I'll see if I can see some more now, but what's sometimes quite interesting is you can tell the pace that an elephant is walking just by looking at the tracks, but also at the dung that it drops. And if it's wanting to get somewhere, like that waterhole that I've been mentioning, they walk in a straight line and they don't stop. So you've got this long line of single piled dung, where if they are feeding on a big tree around them or on grass, what tends to happen is they'll all drop in pretty much exactly the same place. So you tend to see that typical big pile. See, like this little dung here. Just show you something quickly. There's one or two cool little things here. I don't know, will you hear me from here? Hopefully. So this big pile is from one animal. And then this is also a very, very cool track. If you look here, it looks like a long snake track, but it's actually an elephant that was dragging its trunk on the ground like this. We've got a question about what birds sit on animals, and I think it was Jade. It's a bird called an oxpecker, and in this area we get two different types of oxpeckers. We get the red-billed oxpecker and the yellow-billed oxpecker, and they all sit on loads of different animals. They sit on things like impalas. Sorry, not Jade, it's Rain. I apologize. Thank you for correcting me there. And so they'll sit on things like warthogs, impalas, zebra, wildebeest, all the way up to buffalo and rhino. One of the only animals, or large animals, that they don't like to sit on, or the animal doesn't like the bird to sit on, at least Rain, is elephants. And the reason being is behind the elephant's ears are these very, very big veins where the blood pumps from the heart out into the ear. The elephant flaps its ear, cools the blood down, and then it comes back down into the body. And if an oxpecker nicks that vein, it will bleed quite a lot. So the oxpeckers will tend to, if they try and land on an elephant, which I've actually never seen happen before, I'm sure the elephants will chase them away. Yeah. The only bird that I've ever seen on an elephant is a bird called a piapiak, which is a bird in Uganda, and it looks like a cross between a magpie and a crow. So it's black, it's got a big long tail, it's about this big, and they obviously don't feed on the ticks, but they feed on the insects that the elephants are flushing out as they're walking through the grass. And so the elephants have just learned to tolerate them. And we've got these really cool images of this herd of elephants with sometimes 10 or 15 piapiaks on top of one elephant. It's quite unusual, especially coming from South Africa, because I don't know that there are any birds that elephants will tolerate sitting on. So those tracks of those lines were heading in this direction. So there's these big open areas, what we call sodic sites on the right, and they cross the river and they're walking up in this way. So we're checking the far end to see if they have crossed out. I don't think they have. And so we'll slowly but surely make our way back into the area of where they were seen this morning. See, it's starting to open up, so less and less trees in the area. Ooh, I saw an impala, and it looked exactly the same color as a lion, and I just saw it out of the corner of my eye, so I thought maybe that we had found those lions for a second. But as I was saying, the fewer and fewer trees around this area, and more grass. So this is where we've come to just see if there's any general game species around the area. Alright, so as we're moving through this area, Lauren, I think, is going to go and take over James's spot in those leopards, so you'll still get to see them. And so we're going to see if she's reached them yet.
I haven't reached him just yet, actually. Apparently she's in a marula. We have drove this road already, so maybe we've missed her. We're just doubling back on ourselves. I don't actually know quite how far down the road she is, so bear with us. We shall get there. I hope she's still fast asleep. Java, my dear, where are you? We did pass James and Owen on the way home. It's not the car battery, the car is fine, it's the equipment battery. So they're able to drive themselves home. They don't need rescued. So this is the tree that Davi had her in this morning with Trishala. I am stumped. We have done this road twice. It must be further in. Shall we do a turn, Davi? Tone? I think your name was. You're 11 years old from Joburg, not too far away from us right now. And yes, they do eat snakes. Leopards will actually eat almost anything. There was a recent study that proved that they eat, well, in that study, 92 different species of animals, including reptiles, snakes, tortoises, geckos, lizards, including amphibians, frogs, toads, including fish. If they can get access to fish, they will eat the fish, including all sorts of mammals, insects. Leopards are known to eat termites, and what am I missing here? Birds. Okay. I think I'm going to have to figure this out. You're saying this way, Davi. Can you see her? So yes, they will eat almost anything, including snakes. We've watched Tingana, our Duke of Juma, actually eat a huge python. Now, whether he killed the python himself, we're not so sure. There was rumours that it was a kill by a honey badger, but he thoroughly enjoyed that python. And there's a lot of meat on snakes, so yes, they will eat snakes. They may be a bit cautious when it comes to actually killing them, though. Down this different road and see if we can spot her this way. Gemma, you're 13 years old and sadly not. Most likely not. I always say this on every single drive, but it's worth highlighting. The biggest threat to any individual animal is a member of its own species. And we actually got to see footage, very, very sad footage, of a leopardess called Moya killing one of Shadulu's cubs. So Shadulu's one of our leopardesses from the west, and she now has very successfully raised Kara. but she lost another one, and it was actually another female leopardess that killed it. So that was rather sad. So unfortunately, Gemma, there'll be no adoption. They will hurt the cubs. Okay, Louise, I don't know if you're able to help us, but we are stumped. We have driven one road twice, and there's no leopard in Amarula. So we've came another road, but I am really not sure where Kuchava is. Cheetah Plains. Chitwa. Chitwa. Okay, we are in the right place. Is this where you were this morning, Dobby? Okay, so I think we possibly could be on the right track now. Okay, Dobby has got her. I can see leggies dangling. Hello, Kuchava dear. How shall we position for you, Dobby? Go in a little bit? My goodness, my dear, it's been so long since I have had the pleasure of being in your company. Okay. Oh, hello. Don't you look like your mama? Yeah, you do. This is actually not the most ideal marula, I must say. It's rather thin and narrow. Leopards love the marulas that are thick and chunky and wide, so they can get lots of stability for positioning their bottom, I guess. But all the same, she looks rather comfortable. Oh, so good to see her. Although she does have her two back legs on the one side. Michaela, you're 10 years old from Durban. And you're asking about the difference between a leopard and a cheetah. Now, we get asked this question a lot, and I always find the easiest way to explain it is to show pictures. I know that sounds crazy, but once you show a picture of what a cheetah looks like, then it becomes really easy to see the difference between the two. So I'm just going to quickly get a picture for you, and it'll make a lot more sense, I think. Now, before I go anywhere, leopards are shorter, much shorter. Cheetahs have very, very, very long legs that they use for running at high speeds. Leopards don't need to run very, very fast because they hunt completely differently. Leopards hunt by ambush, and then stalking and jumping out, whereas the cheetahs chase and they use their speed to outrun any other animal. So their bodies are completely different, as you are about to see. Okay, Dobby, are you ready? We are ready. Here is my book, and this is the image that I would like to show you. So you can see this is a leopard. Short legs, stocky, muscular, heavy body mass. Whereas if you look at a cheetah, you can see that it's very slim. Look at this slimline physique, long legs, much taller, and not much muscle mass, because they don't want to be too heavy when they run. They also have a very small head, which I know sounds really bizarre, but their head is so small so that the skull doesn't add more weight. They also have very small teeth. Still sharp and still pointy, but it's small so that it doesn't make it too heavy for them. One more picture. This, you can see the cheetah has black tear duct marks all the way down the face. This is to help with light reflection because they're diurnal hunters. It means they hunt during the day. And leopards, as you can see from Miss Kuchava up here, does not have those black marks going down the face. Cheetahs also have spots. Now, when you look really closely at Kuchava's tummy here, you can see they're not quite spots. They're rosettes. You see that? Black marks formed in a circle with a sort of light brown in the middle. We call them rosettes. Whereas cheetahs do have black circular spots. So there's quite a few differences. And it's mainly down to their behavior and their ecology. They hunt differently, and leopards are primarily nocturnal, which means nighttime, and cheetahs are primarily diurnal, which means daytime. He's so sleepy. Now, Kuchava's main territory is Torchwood, and it runs south into Chitwa. We're obviously on Chitwa right now, which is an area we can traverse, but her sort of main core area is also Torchwood, and this is to the east. And it's actually Tandy's old stomping grounds, if you like. Tandy hails from the east, and when she became dominant in her prime, she pushed further west her way, which is further into Juma. And Karula, Tandy's mother, was said to have a very, very huge territory, especially for a leopardess, at around 8,000 hectares. So when Karula sadly passed, it's not a case of the daughter taking the whole territory and claiming 8,000 hectares. It's a case of all the leopardesses surrounding, all the neighbouring leopardesses, sort of taking a piece of that territory and filling up the jigsaw puzzle. So Tandy's territory would have got bigger as she was entering into her prime, and that's when she started to push into Juma. So since Tandy's had her newest litter, she does seem to be spending a lot more time on Torchwood again, but that's actually her original stomping grounds. Territories are very fluid, so it's like a jigsaw that moves, and therefore if a leopardess does die, it won't just, the whole territory will not get given to her daughter. It will be a case of all the neighbouring leopardesses, whether they're related or not, will take a piece of the territory and expand theirs. We actually had fresh female leopard tracks on Cheetah cut line, but we chose not to follow up because we came to swap out with James. Anna Maria, they're too hot. They've probably eaten too much, and they're too hot. They can't sweat like us, I'm afraid. They're mammals, but they can't sweat to cool down. So when their tummy's moving up and down like that, that's normally when they've been feeding and they're full and they're far too hot. Now when they open their mouths and pant, like a dog does, a domestic dog, that's a way of evaporative cooling. So this is their way of cooling down when it's far too hot. But luckily today it's really not that hot. It's quite pleasant. So I can imagine she'll be falling into a deep slumber. We've seen a lot of leopards that we don't normally see recently. James got very lucky with Sabui the other day. We've had really good sightings with Hukamuri, Kuchava. It's now time to see Shadulu. Shadulu's next on the list. Ellie, we always get asked this question. I have never seen it happen, but I imagine it has happened. Cubs fall out of trees all the time, especially when they're younger and they're learning. They're learning how to climb trees. The cubs will fall. But I've actually never seen an adult leopard or leopardess fall out of a tree. Have you, Davi?
Nope.
No. They practice a lot when they're younger, and they really get it down to a fine art. And the reasons we often find leopards in trees like marulas or jackalberries or the trees with the big thick branches is because they need the support. You can see the way Kuchava's lying there. She's got her bum sort of positioned in that fork. And that's probably, one, really comfortable. But two, it probably gives her stability. So it keeps her safe. I certainly wouldn't fall asleep in a tree, but I've never seen a leopard fall out. I imagine it will have happened, though. They have a great sense of balance, able to defy gravity by hoisting themselves up into trees. It's incredible. Claudia, that's a really good question. So let's take the example of Tandy, our queen, our current queen, and her daughter Tlalamba, who would be Kuchava's half-sister. And once a female leopardess reaches independence, which is normally around 18 months, females reach independence before males do, they will be pushed away from mum. And it will be very be done through behavioural signals where mum is telling daughter it's time to go off on your own. Mum will also give daughter a section of her territory and everything else around it will be shifted. So Tandy very much gave Tlalamba the northern section of the territory, which is why we always see Tlalamba on quarantine up in Buffelshoek. That northern section of Juma now belongs to Tlalamba because it was given to her by Tandy. However, they will avoid one another. Absolutely will avoid one another. If they do meet, I believe that they will know who one another are. They will know that's my mother, that's my daughter, and there may be a few snarls, but I really don't think they'll be aggressive or they'll be too friendly. There'll be no interaction. Whereas we see Tlalamba interacting with Tingana all the time, that's her father, but when it comes to mother and daughter, they wouldn't hurt one another. But at that age, they also wouldn't be friendly. And we did see Tandy and Tlalamba not so long ago, and there was a few snarls, very little interaction. Which sounds slightly sad when you think of it from a human perspective, doesn't it? I wonder where the cub is. I don't think James saw the cub today. Okay. I wonder if the cub is around somewhere just sleeping. Very possibly. I felt really lucky to spend the chance to spend time with Sabui and her cubs yesterday. And they kept splitting up, but then rejoining, and splitting up and rejoining. But Kuchava's cub is far too young to be independent, so I imagine it won't be too far away. Big stretch. Linda, yes they do. So leopard cubs are very similar to lion cubs in that they're born completely altricial. So they're born weak, they're born underdeveloped, hairless almost. The eyes really don't open or start to even open until after a few days. It varies. The figures you actually read will vary. Some textbooks say 3 to 11 days, and some textbooks say 6 to 15 days. But essentially what that means is the eyes don't open straight away and the muscles haven't fully developed, they're not mobile. There's no way, shape or form that these cubs could actually protect themselves. So leopards are really, really good mums and they stash their cubs away in dens. And the den could be anything from a burrow in a drainage line or some really, really dense, thick shrubbery. It's really difficult to spot and they keep them there for up to 6 weeks. But they can move dens. Sometimes mothers will continually move dens in order to keep them safe, to make sure the smell doesn't attract other predators. So I've just received good news, and apparently Eric has not only found the Birmingham Pride, but he's also found some signal.
We have just managed to find the pride of lions they had tracks of and found this morning. And look where they are. They are right next to a carcass that is almost completely finished. But the exciting thing is there are about 4 or 5 hyenas in the distance. And there are these cubs that are trying to get a last little bit of feed. There's vultures all over the place. So I think this is going to be quite an extraordinary afternoon. And this is the first time in probably about 2.5 weeks that this pride of lions has been found again. And that one that's lying down, very different color to the one on the right, obviously. I'm sure most of you recognize it as one of the white lines of the pride of lions that we find in this area. So it being smaller, I think, has come back towards the carcass. It probably didn't really get a good enough feed when the rest of them were competing over the carcass. So Marcel and I have had a good look. It looks like a wildebeest. And literally, I mean, you can see the bones on the ribs. You can see a lot of the leg bone. There's not much meat left, so there's not too much left for it to feed on. And I think that's why the adults have probably moved away from it. They have decided it's not worth their while. But if those adults aren't paying attention and those hyenas think there's an opportunity, it might rush in and try and steal the carcass from these cubs. The 2 cubs won't really put up a big fight against some males, or some hyenas. There we go. Starting to try and get some meat in between the ribs. It's using its paw to just stabilize itself. Amazing. I mean, if you look at how different this white cub is to a normal lion, I mean, behind the ears there's absolutely no black marks. There we go. That one's trying to reposition. Now we get to see its face. That's very cool. Yeah, just look at those eyes. Incredibly pale, like these ice cold eyes. And after eating a wildebeest, quite clean, so it tells you that they've had some time to completely feed as much as they can, because when they do, they compete against one another, and they sometimes turn out completely bloody, and that little white face would come out pink, pink, pink. So there might be 1 or 2 little spots of blood on the face. I figure you think they could do with some barbecue sauce. I think they could do with some hot pepper sauce. I'm much more of a chili fan. But if you were here smelling these ribs, you probably wouldn't want to go anywhere near them. After them sitting in a hot sun, they've really started to mature, probably past what we can eat ourselves. But these lions won't have any problem with it. Look at that, one eye closed. And even see it, I mean, it's got its wits about it. It's feeding, but it knows that it's a little bit vulnerable, so it will every now and again pick its head up and look towards where the hyenas were last seen. We do, however, have some more lions coming in, so there's probably going to be some competition soon. So watch her. She might start snarling. She doesn't want to let go of that little piece, but because she's small, she could get pushed off. So here comes one. We'll just see it coming into the frame now. Here we go. Let's see if there's any competition. For now, probably enough space around the carcass for them all to have a little piece. Oh, there we go. See that hit? That's one. So that's one other lion. There's 2 others that are on their way. Imagine what's going to happen now when the other 2 come. Maybe just listen and see if we can hear the sounds. Other 2 are approaching very cautiously. They're just watching, I think, maybe trying to see where they can get in. Okay, now they're coming. Should appear on the right very soon. There we go. Not too much growling, but apparently you can hear some flies. It's all because of that delicious smelling meat that those lions are feeding on.
Yeah, that's what.
There you go. The growls are getting more intense. The two standing up, look at the size difference between them. So they're almost exactly the same age, but look how much bigger the one on the right is. And that one, just by looking at its size, is a male. The one on the left is a female. That little white one is getting quite protective, so it was snarling. Just look at the body language. Ears pinned back. There's a bit of growling going on. That one just quickly went and installed a piece of shoulder. So Anuka, you're asking about albinos and whether they are deaf. And this little white one, as white as it is, actually isn't an albino. It's actually what we call leucistic. So where albinos is an actual pigment within the skin that changes white, leucistic is from a genetic, basically like a passed on gene from the mother and the father. And so it's actually a perfectly normal and behaves exactly and is exactly the same as a natural lion, and the same like a tawny lion. The only difference is the color. So there's no real behavioral differences. It's not born disadvantaged. It's not born deaf. It's not born blind. The other lions don't treat it any differently whatsoever. Literally the only thing that's different is the color. And for it to have been white, both the mother and the father have to carry the gene to pass on down onto the cubs. And even then, there's literally only a 25% chance of it becoming white. So this as an example, the two cubs that we saw walking together are both sisters. They come from exactly the same mother. One's tawny and one's white. We've got another one. So we are probably just going to hang around here for a while. There seems like there's going to be some sort of action with these hyenas and with these lions. What we might end up doing is just looping around to see if we can find the rest of the pride and see what they're up to. But in the meantime, I think James has got his vehicle up and running, so we're going to send you back to him.
So much as a bio leave, our battery and we've now got an working tickety-boo, as they used to say. I don't think anyone says tickety-boo anymore. They should. As we drive in towards the hyena, I wish to send out a word of greeting to young Master Christian Addison, who has been watching us since the very beginning of lockdown. He is apparently our greatest fan. This is according to his mother. He will be the greatest at many things, according to his mother, as I was, according to my mother. But, Christian, you are our greatest fan today, and you are most welcome to a happy birthday message that you will continue to watch for a very long time, even when you have to go back to school. I hope that you'll still watch us. So, happy birthday to you from all of us, WildEarth, and all of the viewers who are watching in solidarity. Alright, we're going to pop in at the hyena den and see what's going on. Let's go back to Lauren for now. How on earth can there be bad signal here?
We had the most perfect view of her face and she just moved it. Let's just stay here in case she moves her head again. But when she pops her head up like that and pants, it's Tandy. It's a younger Tandy. I'm so happy James is out and about again. Really, I am. I don't know if he wants to come back down here or If he's happy to go to the hyena den, I will radio him in just a moment. At least someone's going to see good old rib robs, to see what action is going on down there with the other kind of spots. Now, the reason we've repositioned is because we went to take a look at the kill, just in case Cubby was feeding. We saw the kill, but no cub. So we scratched around a little bit. But I don't want to pop my nose in too far, just in case Cubby's asleep in one of the bushes. Doesn't she look like Tandy? Kyle, you're 12 from Durban, and you're asking what is a leopard's favorite food? Well, they eat almost anything that they can get their paws on, but lots of studies for the Kruger National Park show that impala make up the bulk of a leopard's diet. So between impala, duiker and steenbok, that's the sort of easiest prey for leopards to take down. And you have to remember that they're small, they're petite, especially leopardesses, and they don't have the help of other members of their pride because they don't have prides. They're completely solitary out here. So they've got to make sure that they execute a hunt with perfection. They can't risk injury. So although they would eat anything, and they do also scavenge, I've watched it happen with my own eyes, they show preference for impala. Impala's a medium-sized antelope, and it's the perfect size for a leopard to take down, especially during the rutting season. Okay, I'm just turning my radio down. During the rutting season, which is about to take off in full swing very soon, the male impalas become very distracted. They're very distracted with the ladies, and it's really all they can think about. She's got her tongue hanging out. And therefore, they don't pay attention to everything that's going on around them. They're not as aware. They also become very exhausted and lose condition. So they become very weak because they're forgetting to eat. They're so distracted by the ladies. And rutting season is a feast for the predators. I suspect we'll see a lot of leopards with male impala kills very, very soon. So as you know, Tandy is Kuchava's mother. And don't actually know the father, but it's believed to be Mvula. That is Kuchava's father. And she's been a very successful leopardess out here for a long time. Kuchava means scared in Shangaan. So she used to be very scared and skittish of vehicles. Okay, so I'm not going to go anywhere, but I think James has had some success at the hyena den.
Well, it turns out that these little cubs are a little bit more active than we thought we gave them credit for. And perhaps it's us who's just been here at the wrong time. And that's why we haven't been seeing them. But this is just too precious. Isn't it gorgeous? Little ones playing. Now that one, they're already anal pasting, these chaps. And that's not something one should ever have to say too often, but that's what they're doing. They're using a gland, and they're already marking their little territories. That's why they're walking over the top of branches like that. Totally instinctual behavior. Just like little teddies. And I know many of you are just as delighted by these things as we are. It's so special to have them. Now, if you've perhaps not joined us before and this is your first safari, and you're having a safari that includes Gutshava the leopard, Ribbon the hyena and her 2 cubs, and the Birmingham pride of their white lions. Well, it doesn't always happen like this, but what a wonderful afternoon we're having here. This is Ribbon, the matriarch of the Juma clan of hyenas. These are her 2 youngsters. We think probably now they must be about 6 weeks old, maybe 7 weeks old. Yeah, in fact, more likely 7 weeks old. And we've only had a very few sightings where they've been out of the den like this and actually playing. And it's just such a privilege. It's just so special. Yeah, George and Jack, you're probably right. They have gained some weight. I don't know since when you're talking, but yeah, they will. They'll gain weight very quickly. Remember, hyena's milk is the richest milk in the animal kingdom, apparently, or the mammal class, should I say. Fish don't produce much milk, nor do flies. Clever Pop, the survival rate of hyena cubs, I don't know exactly, but it's pretty good. You know, these are the cubs of the matriarch, so their chances of survival are pretty high. They'll be fed a lot when they'll have a lot of confidence, so they won't be bullied or food. There aren't any other cubs actually in the clan. Their mother will protect them. She's dominant enough to protect them, so they have a pretty good chance. I'm going to say probably for the matriarch, I reckon probably 1 in 3 make it to adulthood, maybe 1 in 4. Certainly once they've got to this age. But I don't know that for sure, and I think it varies from place to place. What a place to spend the evening now, with 2 little baby things. Yeah, Edge Macy, I think one's definitely bigger than the other. I think the one underneath there is bigger. She's got much less, he or she has got much less facial hair loss. And I think that facial hair loss comes from fighting. Although, I mean, it doesn't look like she's backing down, or he or she is backing down much. But it does look to me like the one on the right is bigger than the one on the left. Now we're going to eat Mum's leg, because it tastes like the impala she brought home 2 nights ago. Isn't it amazing? The arm of authority. Yes, I must confess they remind me quite a lot of my nephews, their behaviour in general. I wonder if Jack and Will are watching. If Jack and Will are watching, you guys are certainly as cute as these 2, and about the same behaved. I don't know what they're doing. It's just too beautiful. Right, let's go back across to Eric and the Birmingham Pride. What an afternoon we're having here. I'm relatively envious of him, but not that much because I'm here.
We did a quick little loop around to try and find the rest of the pride, and they are all sleeping, not doing much at all. So we thought it would be best to come here where the activity is the best. And I mean, that one has moved off of the carcass now, but the two tawny ones that are behind the white one are really going at each other every now and again. I mean, they're feeding very close to one another, and there's not a lot of meat left. So, I mean, if we sit here quietly, you'll hear the growling, and eventually one snaps and will lash out and hit the other one. That one that's lying in between, or in the middle, was at a point where it was feeding, and it actually looked like it had a little nap, so it just basically bit a bone in its mouth, and then it fell asleep. It wasn't moving for about 5 minutes, and now all of a sudden it's woken up with a vengeance. And so it's really trying to get to the best piece of meat, and I think they're all trying to feed on where the vertebra and the ribs meet. So at that little joint is probably where there's the best meat left. See, and this white one, because it's much smaller, has been forced on the outside of the carcass. So it literally is just going around trying to find pieces of any bone, maybe a little bit of intestine that it might be able to get some scraps of meat on. It knows that it's not going to be able to challenge its cousins just because of its size. So now it's resorted to, it's literally just the front shin. There's absolutely no meat on there, but maybe it gets a little bit of fat to feed on. Carrying the leg away. See, even still, it knows it can't get into the middle of its cousins, but it wants to keep that little leg to itself. Mr. Jonas is wondering if the subadult male is here, and we've had a look around, and we don't think so. So the only ones that we can see are the 4 adult females, so all of the mothers of the cubs. There's no male lions here, and there's no subadult male lions. So the only other ones that are missing are, like I said, the 2 males, the subadult male, and that young lioness who we found denning not so long ago. And so it probably got to the point where it got pushed away by the dominant males, the 2 Ross males of the pride. But I wouldn't be surprised if it's not too far away. I mean, it knows exactly where his sister's denning, so maybe it decided to head down into that direction. Maybe it's just following the scent of these lions, but maybe only a day or 2 behind. The 2 male lions probably split up from the pride to patrol their territory, and they do that every so often, so they move away from the pride to cover more ground, just go and check an area that they might not have checked in the last while, to make sure that there's no possible intruders that are coming to try and take over their space. And so they will walk, and they might spend up to about a week and a half away from the pride, and then they'll inevitably come back, especially if they've got food. I suppose that's one nice thing about not having the male lions here, is if the males were here, they probably would have hogged the whole carcass and finished most of it. But the females tend to be a little bit more obliging, and they'll share the carcass with the youngsters, and then they might only feed a little bit afterwards. And so all of these cubs have had a really decent meal. The light is just coming through. You might just see that golden light on that one lioness. Really, that beautiful golden hour. There's one that you can see its tongue. And And so it can't get its jaws in between the ribs, and it's using those very hard bristle-like things on its tongue to try and rip the meat off. And just by looking at the rib cage, you can really see it's a small a small wildebeest that they caught. So not a fully grown adult, I don't think. Probably a year old or so. Lou says her face looks exactly the same as that one line that's sticking its tongue through, and I've got a very vivid picture. I think it's a pretty good description.
That's the only way ribs should be eaten.
But it's effective. I mean, look, just by licking at the bone, look at how much meat is able to come off there. I mean, if they give it enough time, they can completely clean the bones. And so, Lisa, you're asking the different ages. So all of these ones that we have here are cubs of the litter. So they vary between, I think the two bigger ones are coming up to about a year and 7 or 8 months old now. And then the younger white one, the smaller one, is only about a year and 2 months. And so there were 3 females that gave birth within a couple of weeks with one another. So now we can't really keep track of which line gave birth at what time. But then the 2 smaller ones are considerably different. Yeah, so, I mean, they intermingle with one another, so it's very hard to keep track of which lioness gave birth to which cubs, but it obviously helps with that there's 2 white cubs in the area. So we're still going to stick around. Like I said, there's hyenas that are potentially going to try and put a little bit more pressure on these lions, and it might be closer to dark time. And so in the meantime, we're going to send you across to Lauren, who's still with the leopard.
My leopard is so snoozy in the most perfect branch in the marula. Look at this. Look at where she's got her head. It's a perfect circle. Davi will give you a view of it if he zooms out, and you can see she's got her head inside a perfect circle. Still no signs of the cub, but I feel cubby must be around somewhere. So after this, we will just do a very, very small loop and see if we can spot the spots. Man, that looks comfy up there, I must say. So Kuchava's obviously been scared, as I mentioned last time. But she's not scared anymore. She's become very, very habituated to vehicles. Very used to vehicles. She's learned we're not a threat. And in fact, she's snoozing quite happily next to one. When I get my future dog, I do have a dog that lives at home, but when I get my future dog, I want to call it Kuchava. Trishala did so well to find this leopardess. It's been a long time since we've seen her. Now, she had her first litter that we know of in January 2018, and it was believed to be one male cub that disappeared. I think, maybe 6 months later. And then she was seen again with suckle marks at the end of 2018. And of course, now she's got this little one here. So this is not her first litter. But she hasn't entirely been successful at raising cubs so far. Suhani, you're from India, and you are asking how long do leopards sleep for each day? It really depends. I've spent days with leopards where, well, they sleep all day, and you watch them sleep. As creepy as that sounds, you just watch them snooze and dream about impala. Or you sometimes find that leopards can be really, really active during the day, like Sabui was the other day. Not Sabui, sorry, Hukamuri. And I'm just waving to another vehicle. They've also came to see Kuchaba. So yes, it really depends. It depends on what they've been up to during the night. It depends on how much food they've had, if they've made a kill, if they've walked great distances, or maybe even been scent marking, so they're slightly exhausted. It's all about the energy budget. Every organism, every species has an energy budget, and they always want to stay in the positive side of that budget. And scent marking and patrolling actually eats up a lot of a leopard's energy. So after that, they may need to rest, they may need to eat, and they may need to sleep for some time in order to recuperate their energy. So it really depends on what they've been doing as for how long they will sleep for. It also takes a lot out of a leopardess to be a mother. Lactating, producing milk, looking after your offspring, that also eats into your energy budget. So that's a really good question, but it's completely situational dependent. Okay, I'm going to stay here and hopefully spot the cub. But of course, Mr. Hendry is sitting at the den with cubs of his own.
We've just had the most fascinating interaction here between Ribbon and one of those things of which we cannot speak. It came grazing around, and she gave it what for, and it gave her what for. And then she naturally decided that backing off was the better course because the cubs scuttled inside. And now she's just returned because those of which we do not speak have moved off. Very interesting. Now, lots of grazing animals, of course, will move between termite mounds because termite mounds are sources of high nutrition. They grow very nutritious grasses, etc. Hello, Trista. Yes, it is possible to go on safari with James to various parts of the Lowveld and East Africa. Thank you for asking. You can just check out my website, jameshendry.co.za, if you want to find out where you can come on holiday with me. And you can go anywhere really. You can choose where you want to go. But I've got a couple of itineraries up there for this year and next year. COVID allowing, it should be enormous fun. So you can just go across to my website and have a look there. Thank you for asking that, Trista. Maybe you shall be on the next safari, and we shall introduce you to Ribbon herself. Now, I think she'll probably call the cubs out again, or she certainly tried to before the interaction took place. And then they did come out, and then nothing. So I think we'll sit for a little while, probably about 10 minutes or so. And then if the sort of standard issue waiting game ensues, we'll move on and see what else we can find. But it would definitely seem that these cubs are coming out at random times. My wife actually suggested to me that we come at this time of the day, so I must give her credit for suggesting that. much as it pains me, of course. You may just be able to see the little shaft of sunlight has caught the end of the termite mound there. I find these cloudy days in May with those little shafts of light to be very atmospheric. The cubs are calling now. Cubs want to come out, listen to them. Elephants shouting as well. Let's just see what happens here. It's all kind of happening at the same time. The cubs were starting to call. Those of which we do not speak started to move, and elephants started to scream in the background. They're still screaming. Oh, Ribbon, how tiring is your life? I've just got a comment from all of the viewers saying that my wife was very smart to send me here. Given that my wife is reading the social media feed and the questions, I'm going to say, really, all of you? Really? No, obviously you'll be correct if you did say that. Why have you faced the camera at me? Are you trying to punish me at will?
I'm going to show your wife that you're being very sincere when you say these
I'm being very sincere. Let's see if she calls them out again. I don't think they're quite finished playing. They were making a little squealing noise recently. I mean, Michael, one would expect her to move the cubs at some stage, but I mean, they've been here 7 weeks now. I won't lie to you, the place is starting to sniff quite profoundly. But as yet has shown no sign of going to investigate the others. We go past the other dens in this area every so often, and there's been no fresh excavation or clearing out, or so I don't know. Presumably she must eventually move. The foulness inside that hole must rival that in the long drops that we found in the middle of Botswana on our Kgalagadi trip. Yes, Louise, it was delightful. Okay, we're going to give her another 10 minutes and then we'll move on from here. In the meantime, you're going to go back to andBeyond and Ngala, where Eric is sitting with the great Birmingham Pride.
Not too much has changed in terms of the individuals that have been feeding, so it's been the same three the whole time. The rest of the pride, more than happy to just rest in those open patches of ground that are not too far away from us. These three are really trying to get the last bits of scrap as much as they can. And just look at the ribs. I wonder, I mean, in the last 10 or 15 minutes, if you have a close look at them, can you notice a difference? I wonder if you can see any meat that has been licked off by that one. Look at the one closest to its face. It's actually completely bitten the rib off, so it's nice to see that its jaws are strong enough to be able to crack those ribs. And they might just feed on the very edges where they can crack the bone, but then they'll probably leave the majority of the ribs behind. it's quite amazing to know that these lions are comfortable not only having their cubs so close to us, but having them feed. Udi X-Ray is asking how strong a lion's tongue is, and I don't know if I can give you an exact figure, Udi X-Ray. It's similar to a house. So if you've got house cats and have you ever been licked by one, it feels like it's coarse sandpaper that's rubbing over your skin. So imagine that times 100 with a lion. At the very edge of their tongue, they've got these tiny, tiny little bristles that they use for things like cleaning themselves, so to get rid of ticks, to get rid of blood from their faces, but then also to try and get the last bits of meat off of the bone. And that's why we've been seeing that one spending so much time licking the ribs. And so it's capable of literally licking and scraping the ribs off of the bone. I mean, if a lion were to lick a human skin, because it is so soft, I think it would probably tear our skin off. That's how tough that skin, the tongue can be. That one in the middle with a big bone looks like it's trying to get to a little piece of cartilage. So I think it's actually just removed the kneecap. That's that skin and that bone that it has in its mouth. And Matt, absolutely they will, yeah. So they'll eat pretty much everything. The only thing that they'll leave behind is probably some of the intestines. So that will probably the stomach content where there's not really too many nutrients. Having said that, if there's a lot of lions and there's not too much food around, you'll probably find that some of the smaller ones, if there is a big piece of stomach content or intestine, you might find that they'll eat around the stomach content and then take away the actual stomach, but not eat the digested and the semi-digested grass of a wildebeest. I've actually seen a leopard eat a whole tube of the intestine, and I think even some of the colon, and it would put it in between its two front teeth, and it would chew it almost like we would eat spaghetti, and then it squashed everything out, and so it was as clean as it could possibly be before it started eating it. And I'm sure a lion would do pretty much exactly the same thing. There's a pretty distinctive pecking order within a pride of lions like this. So these three, being some of the smallest cubs and some of the smallest individuals in the pride, are here for a reason. They didn't get a proper feed before the rest of them did. Oh, that one has now just moved the face. So it's literally, you can see the whole jaw. That is insane. So now it looks like it's trying to get some of the cheek and the jaw muscles of the wildebeest. It looks quite scary actually when it's like that. Jeepers creepers. It's interesting. Look at the top jaw of that wildebeest. You can't see any individual teeth there. Averil 100%, yeah. So when there's a male lion in the area, in the vicinity, there's going to be a lot more chaos. And it will usually happen pretty much straight after the kill has been made, because the males will want the fresh meat. I would imagine that if there were males in this area, they would have eaten as much as they possibly could, and then they would have left or moved off, and then the rest of the pride would come in, and there'll probably be a lot more of these cubs fighting over the little pieces of scrap like this now. But I mean, it might sound quite tough for a female to have to provide for her cubs, and she catches them catches these wildebeest for her cubs and for herself, but then the male comes in and takes them away. But that male adds so much more protection for her, and so they are willing to tolerate the males being quite selfish and hiding away from or not giving as much of the meat to the rest of the pride. Yeah, that is insane. Look at that. So now it's just trying to readjust the view, or readjust the skull so it can get some more blood and more meat. All right, so we're going to stick around here. I mean, like I said, there's potential for even more action than we're witnessing to unfold. So whilst we wait for that action to happen, we're going to send you across to Lauren, who's still with that leopard.
Good luck, Eric. Patience, pants, always pay off. You just gotta wear them and sit tight. The biggest lesson I've learned from working at WildEarth is patience. When you're dealing with nature, you gotta be patient, and hard work eventually pays off. Eventually. You will have some quiet drives. You'll win some, you'll lose some. But patience is key. Isn't it just beautiful? Can we take a look at that sunset, Davy? There's another vehicle, so we'll try and avoid putting that other vehicle on camera, but we will give you a view of that glorious sunset that is actually basking its light on Kuchava. Look at that. Wow. Let's just take a minute to admire the sunset. I have no idea if that was a minute or not, but let's go back to the beautiful Kuchava. All the way up that skinny marula. How many of you are saying how beautiful the sunset is? A beautiful sunset on a beautiful leopardess. I'm going to eat my words here a little bit. I always said that Kuchava was the most beautiful leopardess. And I have to say, she's still absolutely stunning. Girl, don't worry. Oh no, don't get mad at me. You're still beautiful. But I have to say, in recent months, I fully came to appreciate just how stunning Tlalamba is. Our little princess really, really is gorgeous. So I think I might be swapping favourites soon. I know, can you believe it? James Richard, you'll be shocked. Kuchava's still my favourite, but just watching Tlalamba grow up and turn into a mighty fine leopardess, she's also stunning. And of course they're related, as I mentioned earlier, half-sisters. Look at those little paws, Davy, dangling. Dangle paws, dangle legs. Dennis, what an interesting question. I got asked the other day about, do animals dream? We discussed that. I think I was sitting with Ribbon, and I definitely believe that mammals do. I think it gets a little bit more complicated when you think about nudibranchs or mosquitoes, but I really do believe that mammals dream. I have no scientific evidence to back this up, Dennis, but I think they do have nightmares. And what I am basing it on is if you can dream, if you go into that REM state of sleep, then I guess your mind can wander anywhere and it can probably tap into your fears. Mammals do have fears. Watching my dog definitely, good old Poppy the beagle, the overweight beagle, definitely has nightmares. Really, I watch her. That also sounds really creepy, but I do watch her sleep, and I firmly believe sometimes she has nightmares. So what a yawn. Based on that alone, Dennis, I'm going to say that yes, I think they do. I don't know what their nightmares will be. Hey girl, why don't you come and see us more often? We love you. But yes, you're all welcome to share your thoughts on that. #WildEarth. But I think mammals, let's just stick to mammals. I think that mammals do have nightmares. She's calling Cubby. I just can't see where Cubby is. Did you hear that sound? It's a very small vocalization. She wants her cub to come. Come on, Cubby. Your mommy wants to see you. I think she's looking around for a cub. She's been snoozing heavily. She probably has no idea where her cub is. I think leopards make great mothers. I really do. And I don't think it's easy. She's still calling. Okay, hopefully the next time you come back to us, we're going to have a cub in sight. But for now, as we watch crew travel, we are going to send you across to Tila at Eco-Trade in Karongwe.
I hope that our birds don't fly away, but they haven't. They seem to be perched quite nicely in this dead tree. We have a pair of black-collared barbets, but there's another pair in the distance that's just started calling, and they've responded by flying away. Well, we're at a new little pan that I have no idea what it's called, but it's quite pretty, and we just kind of stopped through to have a look to see if we could find a male leopard by the name of Sabo. But let me give you a very quick update on what's happened this afternoon. The reason why we vanished and disappeared is because we did find the 3 male cheetah. Perhaps I can show you a picture. I don't think I've got a picture of all 3 of them, sadly. And we tried to follow them for as long as we could, hoping that they would move into an area that we could show you, but they are pretty. You can have a look. There's one of them. It's a terrible photo. Let me just show you how beautiful their faces are. At least it's sharp this time. Are you getting there? Ta-da! Look how beautiful he is. This is one of the 3 male cheetahs that I'm hoping to show you. Now, they are marching south at the moment. They're actually almost near the eco training camp. Well, not at the camp itself. Awesome. I'm going to put my camera down now because it's quite heavy and I'm probably going to make it come out of frame. Very handsome, yes. So they've moved quite far south now, not south this way. They've come from that way to this way, and they're marching in this direction. Maybe they even stop here to have a drink, but we lost them. But we do obviously have signal here. I think they're heading in the direction of that female cheetah with the cubs. They haven't been that far south for quite some time, so we're definitely going to go looking for her and to try and follow up on these boys again. And hopefully we can find all of them. We can have a cheetah marathon tomorrow. But there is another little bird. Can you see those 2 birds just off to the left, Alex, where the water sort of dips in? There's 2 of them running, one on either side of the water. They're very small little birds. There we go. And you've got them just they're on the right. There we go. And there is a 3-banded plover. Oh, now I'm sad that the black-collared barbets flew away so quickly, because apparently some of you have only seen them for the first time with us. So we'll definitely keep looking for them. This is a good area to look for them around water, because along this drainage system that we're on, there are big jackleberry trees and a bunch of other trees that get fruit on them, lots of fig trees, and that's what those barbets like to eat, so it's a good spot to search for them. Apparently you cannot hear me again. Yay. But that's not what this bird that we're looking at eats. It eats pretty much exactly what the blacksmith lapwings eat, which are those black and white birds that you almost see at every single watering hole. They're just feeding on little insects on the surface. They must have incredible eyesight. Look how quickly they move, and they probe their beaks with such perfection. But they're very small, these little birds. Being so far away doesn't quite do them justice, and when you see them in sort of real life, you're always quite surprised as to how little they are. There's normally arguments between the three-banded plovers and the blacksmith lapwings. There's like an ongoing feud between lions and hyenas, always chasing one another around. Thank you very much for commenting on my photography skills. They are not very good. Most of the time, they're not in focus. If I have to show you all of my photos. Sorry, I'm laughing and making the camera shake now. So we did sit here quietly for a little bit, just watching the birds, hoping we would hear Sabo, the big male leopard. Like I said, I don't know if I told you, I can't remember now, but I had his tracks from early this morning coming in this direction. So we just came to poke our nose in here, and then we're going to go to Rockfig Dam, which is the dam that we were at this morning where we saw the reed cormorants. If you did catch the sunrise safari, if you didn't, it was a cracker of a drive. I'd definitely go back and re-watch that, or at least have it on in the background. The cub, we had lots of cheetah cubs, which was cute. There were wild dogs. There was, my goodness, leopards galore. So it was quite crazy. And if he's not here, then I think he could be at Rockfig Dam. So we're going to go and look for Sabo as well. And the researchers are looking for the cheetah. Maybe we can get a glimpse before the sun sets. But otherwise, there's tomorrow. Also, look at that technique that little bird is doing. So not only is it trying to pick the insects off the surface of the water, it's dipping its toes in and sort of doing the shimmy shuffle and chasing the insects away that might be hidden in the mud. And I don't think that it's going after big insects, so it's not like a fish eagle going after an enormous catfish or an Egyptian goose gosling. So they have to constantly keep feeding throughout the day to get enough insects to sustain them. I wonder how many little insects a three-banded plover needs to eat in a day. I wonder. Now, this is a really, really I suppose, great area to go on safari, Lachlan. Anywhere in the greater Kruger region. So here where we are at Karongwa Game Reserve has phenomenal sightings. Obviously, there's a female cheetah here with 2 cubs, which is becoming quite relaxed with the cars, which is awesome. Yesterday afternoon, if you didn't catch it on Eco Training's, this morning on Eco Training social media, we posted a crazy encounter with a leopard catching an impala, then a big elephant bull trying to chase it. And then, of course, the Sabi Sand is phenomenal. If you really, really good for photographic and leopards. It's known for leopards. Ngala Private Game Reserve, which is somewhere between the Timbavati and the Kruger National Park, is also really awesome. There's so many. I could go on for the next 3 hours. But the best time of the year, it depends what you're after. So if you want big cats and really good game viewing, dry season is really good. So that's in South Africa's winter. So June, July, and August are normally great times of the year to come because it's easier to see everything. The bush is thinned out a fair amount. The water starts to dry up. So animals, start using the same watering holes a lot more frequently. This time of the year is awesome too because it's green season. Definitely don't not come during green season when the grass is tall because we also have all the migratory birds that come through. And they should have left already. Most of them have gone north, whether it's to Europe or just to northern parts of Africa. So both times of the year are good. It just depends on what you want to come for. But if you go to the Eastern Cape of South Africa, you really, for example, along the coast, you don't really want to go in the winter time, so June, July, and August, because it's so rainy. So there you might want to plan your trip a different time. It depends, I suppose, where you want to go. Very entertaining, this little 3-banded plover. I like the shimmy shuffle that it's doing. Do you think you could incorporate that into a dance move, Alex?
Do it for the TikTok.
Do it? Yeah, definitely. This is about time we should start hearing big cats making noises, but they've been very quiet. But somebody that's not having unlucky cat luck like we are is Lauren, and Kuchava's cub has come out.
Cubby's here. They both had a little greeting meeting. Cubby appeared from nowhere, obviously having a deep snooze. Look at that pillow face. It's so lovely to meet you, little one. Why are you going into stalking mode? Believed to be a girl. Following Mom. Kujava just got up and walked past the vehicle. I think they're going back to the kill. I'm getting to meet all the cubs these days. I feel very lucky. Tandy's next. Younger than Sabui's. Sabui's are said to be 9 months old. And this little girl is 7. But Louise did say, Louise got the pleasure of meeting them this morning, or meeting her this morning. Said, I don't believe the sex is completely confirmed, so we will try and get a good old look at the genitals. Oh, I wonder who your daddy is. I will move once. Oh, I see what you mean, Louise. I also saw golden patches at that rear end. I think we need a good close-up shot of those genitals. I saw that. There is a spider that's slightly scaring me, crawling across the sea. Just, can you please just no. As long as it doesn't crawl on me. Okay, we're gonna go the long way round just to make sure that we don't disturb anyone. So bear with us. They're just behind. They're at the kill. But we're just gonna do a big loop. But Louise, I see what you mean. I saw those golden patches. Davi, if you get the chance, will you do a genital close-up for us? Yes. I think this way. I'll go the long, long way. Okay, I'm just trying to figure my way around here. And as I do that, I guess it's a good time to remind you all that you are welcome to support us. You can head over to the website, www. Apparently you don't even have to say that anymore. Larry, you sent me a message. Thank you. I am clearly showing my age here. You don't even need to say www. But you can go to WildEarth.tv and there's an option there to support us. Okay, as I reposition very, very carefully here, I'm going to send you across to James with some buffalo.
Yes, there is a breeding herd of beefaloes here on Juma. Can you believe it? Joy and rapture. They are back, the buffalo, and this is very good news because it should attract a few lions, and well, we'll enjoy them for their own sake as well. I will tell you that Rusty is still giving a bit of uphill. Rusty is the vehicle I'm on, and I can't actually move and still broadcast, so I have to sit in this position while we talk about buffalo. That one is missing. There. Oh. It must have been a very owie. I wonder if that wasn't a lion that took it off, given the severe wound next to it. It would be unpleasant to have one's tail torn off by a lion bent on making you his dinner. Yes, Miss Anamandris, fingers crossed they bring the Nkuhuma Pride back, the famed Nkuhuma Pride, which has been conspicuous by its absence of late. Methinks it's not going to, because the Nkuhuma Pride is on Mala Mala right now, which is kind of, 7 k's to the south, on a buffalo kill. Or they were yesterday. Don't know if they still are today, probably. And I think that they've moved in there. The absence of the Styx pride has left the place vacant, and so they're just hanging there. What's interesting, though, is that is the domain of the Birmingham Boys, but as the Birmingham Boy Coalition has declined through various acts of violence perpetrated by other lions and various other creatures who don't like lions, I think you'll find that the danger that their cubs
Sorry about that. They're on the carcass. So it's not the best visuals. I think this is... I can actually only see one leopard. I can only see Kuchava. Now, many of you are also commenting that you thought the cub could be a boy. This is interesting. It was Louise that said it to me from this morning. She went on drive with Trishala and Davi, of course, to see the leopards. And she mentioned, Lauren, there's, well, what looks like 2 golden orbs. And we all know that's a sign of a male. So I think we need to pay close attention to this. I got a brief glimpse of exactly what Louise is talking about. So if we get the chance, hopefully they might be here tomorrow morning as well, because we're losing light. But if we get the chance, we're going to need to look very, very closely here. It can be tricky. It can be really, really tricky with leopard cubs and lion cubs. You've got to be careful. And I really hope that Tandy leaves Torchwood and comes back to Juma so we get to see her little cubbies grow up. Ikanyeni also has cubs. Most of the leopardesses in the area have cubs, apart from Tlalamba. Okay, unfortunately, guys, we're going to need to go into infrared. That special tool we have where we can view the animal when the ambient light gets low. Ta-da! There you have it. So the image is now black and white, but it means that we can see quite clearly what's going on and we're not disturbing the animal in any way. I love it. I love our infrared light. I have to say, using artificial lights to get photographs or to get footage at night time is not the right way to do it. Shining lights on animals, especially animals that are designed to see in the dark, nocturnal animals. They have a special layer on their eyes. Many of you know that's a pedum lucidum. And shining a bright spotlight into their eye is really not ethical. So the way that we do it is there's no artificial light whatsoever. But the moon, I have to say, is 88.6% is in the waxing gibbous phase. So very soon we'll be coming up to full moon, which is exciting. I won't sleep, but still, it'll be full moon. And we often see lots of hunting happening on quarantine at full moon. Even your diurnal, or your primarily diurnal species like cheetah and wild dog, are also said to hunt during full moon. Tavi, can you see cub in there as well? No, neither can I, but I'm guessing cubby's there. You can hear them crunching though. Okay, we're going to sit here and listen. And you guys are going to go across to Miss Taylor McCurdy, who's at another watering hole.
I don't know, I'll figure out something.
Lighting position.
We've arrived at Rockfig Dam, where the only animal that is in sight, well, I suppose there's a whole bunch of creatures living here, is an Egyptian goose, and probably the same one that we saw sitting amongst the reed cormorants this morning. Where's your partner? We typically always see them in pairs, but not today. And our reed cormorants have vanished and have not left us with anything else to see. I've also searched for the striped kingfisher that likes to live at this dam, and Savo is late. The big male leopard has not wandered down those beautiful rocks to have a drink of water and ponder at his reflection. So that's a little bit disappointing, but the impala are still ratting in the distance. And they keep making me think that they're alarming at something, especially when you're driving. That would be the perfect spot. Actually, Alex, I know you've never seen him here before, but this ledge, he likes to sit on those lower rocks. I've seen him here a couple of times. So we're hoping that he will come back. And I'm just looking for other little things around here. Lots of insects out tonight. The wind has dropped a bit. It's warmed up slightly. Now, Sandy, we're actually not too far away from Juma. We're about 110 kilometers, give or take a little bit, from Djuma Private Game Reserve. So it would take me from here to Hoedspruit. It takes about 45 minutes or so, because I have to drive through the reserve a little bit, and that slows you down. And there's a couple of small, little, very like sort of informal towns along the way, and you've got to drive nice and slowly because there's lots of cows and chickens and goats and things running on the road, so that tends to slow you down. Look at the skyline. And then once you get to Hoedspruit, you can pick up the pace a bit as the roads, the speed limit increases on the way there. So yeah, it's not too far away. And then Ngala would be a little bit further. I'm trying to think if it would take me probably about 2 hours to get to Juma. Again, also Juma, you have to go through informal settlements on dirt roads, so that takes a bit of time, whereas if it was all tarred and there weren't so many animals running around, we'd probably be able to get there quite quicker. It's actually a really awesome drive to do. I'm trying to think, somebody a very long time ago did a time lapse. It may have been Brent, who was also a former safari guide, a long time ago. He took a really cool time lapse of his trip from Hoedspruit all the way to Juma, which was quite fascinating to see. This Egyptian goose looks like it doesn't trust us. Walks, takes a few steps, and then turns around and looks back at us. Oh, doesn't seem too impressed either. Was that a yawn? Are you tired? Well, best you head up onto a stick somewhere, because if one of the leopards that like to frequent this dam, including that skittish female that was seen mating, well, that we saw mating with Sabo, she likes to come around here too. And one day we actually have her, Alex, from where you are, we had her on those rocks. She came from the trees at the back, and then she walked down through the grass, and then down and to the right to those big round rocks where the water sort of ends. So she hopped through the grass, doop, and then she went up on the rocks to the right, and then behind the fig trees. We didn't even know she was there. I'd actually just brought a group of students with eco training, and we were just learning how important it is to approach a watering hole quite slowly. You don't want to come racing in, because if there's something wallowing in the water or a skittish leopard nearby, they're definitely not going to come out, or they're going to sprint away. So those are just some of the things that we teach up-and-coming guides on what to do. It's not just all about the knowledge. A large portion of it is actually guiding techniques. And just, I think, something in case you were ever wondering about how to become a guide, it's not always all about the animals. I would say about 80% of it has got to do with people, and chatting to them and entertaining them, and guest sort of management. And then, of course, we are blessed to have the wilderness as our office, and we interpret what's kind of going on. Like, I'm not sure what that goose is doing. I think she's just getting his... I can't even English anymore. They're just keeping their feet warm. Perhaps it's like a pair of moccasin slippers that rock. Anyways, off you go to Ngala Private Game Reserve, where a carpet of lions awaits you.
And one lioness has literally just stood up, and one of the reasons why she was doing so is that the 3 cubs that we've been watching feeding throughout the day actually got up and went to join the rest of the pride, and the hyenas obviously saw that as an opportunity to get a meal. And so the hyenas started to advance, and then one by one the adult lionesses started to come and intimidate and chase the hyenas away. They didn't really actively run and chase after them, but just the simple act of them getting up and walking towards the hyenas was intimidating enough for the hyenas. So as they got up and moved, the rest of the cubs started to follow. So that's why we've got so many more of them around this wildebeest carcass. And although there's hardly any meat left, they're still very protective over it, especially against hyenas. So there's only one lion that you can just see there feeding away around the tail, and we're joined by the rest of the group. So that one standing up is one of the adults, the one in the foreground is again one of the adult females, and then the white one that you can see behind that female in the foreground is the other white one. So that's the one that we haven't seen yet this afternoon. Just look at the one that's just stood up, the white one there. You see there's quite a considerable size difference. So that's the female we've been watching. The male had a massive feed last night. His belly is looking as full as we've ever seen it. And so he's very happy to not feed on anything, but also not wanting to move too far away from his mum's side. So that's why they decided to get up and move, and they're not really feeding now. Lions, I don't think, get sick after feeding on too much. I mean, I've seen them feeding, I've seen a pride of lions feeding on a hippo and they must have been there for probably about 4 or 5 days, and it looked like they couldn't fit another ounce in, and then they'll walk up and feed again. They definitely suffer from what people call a food coma. So once they've had a very full meal, they'll go find a nice shady spot and just rest. And they could literally stay in the same spot for sometimes 2 or 3 days if they've had a good meal. I don't think they even get sick if they eat meat that we consider to be rotten or off. And again, same thing with the hippo carcass that I've seen lions feed around. The meat had started to turn black, and you could almost see it turning liquid and dripping off the bones. And these lions would continue to come and feed every now and again. So they just don't want to waste their food, and that's why I think they're very protective over this one with the hyenas. I'm sure there'll become a time, if it's not now, within the next 2 or 3 hours, where the females decide that enough is enough, and they'll literally start getting up, and if the cubs don't come, they'll slowly and gently contact call them, and then the cubs one by one will get up and follow the mothers away. And then at that stage, it's open season for the hyenas, and there'll be, I would imagine, quite a big fight between at least 4 or 5 individuals fighting over the scraps of this carcass. I mean, it's quite a nice example to show you the difference between the white and the tawny cubs. I mean, those two standing right next to, or sitting facing away from us right next to one another. And just see how much that white pops out compared to the one on the left. So, Lisa, you're asking about how strong a lion's jaw is, and I actually don't know the exact answer. I'm sure there's been studies that have measured how much force or how many pounds it can withstand, but I'm actually not entirely sure of the exact figures. I know hyenas have got the strongest jaws in the mammal kingdom, but I wouldn't be able to give you a number. I think lions, I mean, they're capable of breaking bone that might be the size of 2 human fingers together, the diameter of 2 human fingers, but they're not going to feed too much more on bones. Yeah, that one ran in and quickly stole that bone. But just watch now, especially now that it's becoming dark, look at how well the rest of the cubs and the lions blend in with their surroundings, and that white one just pops out. We're going to switch to infrared now, so you'll see a change in color. There we go. And even then, in infrared light, that white cub is just stands out completely, and that's why they're at such a disadvantage. It's so much harder for them to hunt. It's so much harder for them to remain hidden if there's other lions in the area. You can see how full this belly is. He doesn't need to feed, but he's going to try anyway. You're giving a very half-hearted attempt. He's not really getting stuck in like its brother was licking the ribs not so long ago. you might just, especially just below the ears and around the chest, you might, oh, there you go, look at that belly. If you didn't believe me before, you should believe me now. And he is huge. But just below the ears and around the chest, you might just start to see that hair growing slightly longer. So his mane is already starting to develop, which is really cool to see. And it will probably stay white. It might turn a slightly dirtier color as it becomes harder and harder to clean. But for the most part, you won't see a much darker than a light tan color, if he makes it that long. He's got a long road ahead of him. Still has to survive being a cub, and then once he gets to about 2.5, 3 years old, he's going to get kicked away. So Lena Boo has asked me what behavioral traits has surprised me with lions. So good question. I would have to give it some thought. Let me just think for a little bit. Yeah, Linamu, I think starting as a field ranger in South Africa, you learn a lot of book knowledge, but you don't get to spend a lot of time watching the animals before you start as a guide. So I guess you read in books that these lions are completely nocturnal and they've got set territories, but it's a lot more dynamic than that. They don't only move at nighttime, and they move whenever it pleases them, basically. So a lot of lions will move throughout the day if the weather's good enough. If they feel like they've got good chances of hunting, they'll cover much more ground than you would expect. I mean, I've even seen lions moving on 40-degree weather sometimes. And with the territories, I think the areas that they cover is so vast that it does change, and the territories shift a lot more than I used to think. I used to think that it was one set in stone area. Their territory would be from A to B, and that's it. But it seems like they just basically follow the resources. So wherever the resources are within their territory, they might gain a little bit more ground to the west or to the east. So about, say, this pride of lions over the last 2 weeks has disappeared, and it went into the eastern side of the reserve. When I was here a year and a half ago, we never once saw them in the east, and now they're here more. I don't know if you can hear the hyena in the background, so it's probably calling for reinforcements. We still have to try and find our way out of this area, and it might take us a while because we did spend a lot of time trying to look for these lions this afternoon. So we're going to try and find ourselves a road, hopefully before tomorrow, and I'm going to send you to Lauren.
We're just going to give you the last little look at Kuchava here. This is Kuchava, but Cub is there. We just saw them have a little snuggle. But this is the last looks because there's a cub in the sighting. I just want to leave before it gets too dark. We've still got light. We've still got an orange horizon, which we won't be able to show you because we're in infrared. But this is our last little look at this pair. And I wonder if they'll be here tomorrow. I'm really not sure. One of us will definitely come and check, that's for sure. The kill is still on the ground. It's stashed deep in a thicket, but it's on the ground, and that's a worrying thing. All it would take would be a hyena to come along, and Kuchava and Cub would scatter. This cub's quite skittish, similar to the male of Sabui's, actually. Sabui's daughter was a lot more relaxed. But the male cub was very, very skittish, very similar to this one here. Just not entirely sure what to do with vehicles yet, or what to do with the noise, or the sound, or the sight. So that is it getting very, very dark, I'm afraid. You lose light so fast. So Kochava, my girl, thank you and good night. Please stay around for tomorrow. Okay, I'm just going to pull out really, really slowly. No lights on. They're both over there, don't worry. But as soon as we turn away from them, I'll put my lights on to make sure that I can actually see where I'm driving. Janet, interesting question. Do I enjoy doing night drives? I do, actually. I do. I find it quite tough when you're live because your eyes have got to adjust. So humans are not designed for this crepuscular kind of light. It's hazy. We have got a horizon of orange, but the ambient light's so low and it's really, really tricky to see. My eyes take time to adjust. I don't know if that's everyone, but I know that humans are really, we haven't evolved for sunrise and sunset. We've no need to. We are diurnal animals and we're active during the day. Even back in history, we used to hunt during the day when we were hunters and gatherers. And our eyes just have never needed to evolve specialized cones or rods in order to see better in the crepuscular time. So once your eyes have adjusted to the dark and it's pitch black, if you like, and you have your spotlight out, yes, I do enjoy it. I really do. It gives you a completely different feeling. You feel immersed in darkness and you don't know what's around the corner. And of course, all you have, talking of spotlights, it would be really helpful if I actually had mine out in case there was anything else here. You're relying on reflection. You won't see anything else. You're relying completely on the reflective eyes of anything that might be nearby. And I like the excitement of possibly seeing nocturnal animals that you maybe don't get to see during the day. Bush babies, porcupines. Imagine you saw an aardvark. Predators are obviously moving during the night. Things happen. Eldrin, some animals can see infrared wavelengths, I believe, on the spectrum. Lots of different organisms in the sea and on land can actually see completely different spectrums of light than we do. And some organisms can see infrared. Many animals can see UV light, especially fish. There's actually a really interesting study. Now, I always mention that the biggest threat to any individual is an individual of your own species. So you need to be able to recognize your own species, individuals, or you would be in trouble. Leopards must be able to recognize other leopards. It doesn't matter about anyone else. And the same goes for fish. So there's a really interesting study on a specific group of fish and the damselfish. They were reacting completely differently to what happened to be two different species, but to the human eye, they looked completely the same. I believe it was the lemon damsel and the ambon damsel, I think. Now, to the human eye, they looked exactly the same. But during sort of lab conditions, during the study, each species were noticing that it was a different species, so it was baffling. And when you actually put the fish under UV light, you could see that each fish had a unique fingerprint of patterns all over their face that were completely different between the species. So they could see it, so they knew, this is my species, or no, this is not my species. But of course humans couldn't, so it took us a long time to realize it was two different species, and then it took us a long time to realize exactly how they were recognizing one another. And it was because they could see this unique pattern on the faces. It was like a fingerprint, and humans can't, because we can't see UV light. It was fascinating. Each species will have ways of recognizing one another that others don't. I didn't get that name. Did you get that, Davy? 3Pi. Davy might have to adjust my volume. I'm plugged into the Camops earpiece. Yes, I did night dives a lot. I did night snorkeling and I did night dives. Two completely different experiences because, of course, snorkeling, you're on the surface and you're weightless. You don't have equipment and tanks and regulators and all sorts of other apparatus. Whereas diving, you have that moment where you deflate your BCD and you sink and you go under into complete darkness. Now you do have a torch, and there's also specialized torches you can get that help you see different colors underwater. UV torches. Coral glows at night time, and it glows in neon colors like a highlighter: yellow, pink, green. So you can take a UV torch down with you, shine it on coral, and it looks completely different. And coral is it's an animal, and corals are animals, and they feed during the day by photosynthesis from the algae that is in their cells. It's a symbiotic relationship. But at night time, of course, the sun is not shining. So then what they do to feed, there will be no photosynthesis taking place, is they bring out tentacles, and they start to move their tentacles. They're in the same family as jellyfish, and they're able to snatch bits of plankton from the water. So when you see a coral under UV light, not only is it glowing magnificent colors, it's also moving, and it's also got tentacles that you've never seen before. It's incredible. But I prefer, if I had to choose, night snorkeling, because you're completely weightless. I love that feeling, and I like to free dive. So I used to get all my guests to turn off their torches, especially when it was new moon. There's no ambient light, there's no sort of full moon making it too light. So everyone would sit in a circle, turn off your torch, and it's quite scary. My guests used to be very scared, especially the top A-listers, and I used to tell them to take a breath and then go under, free dive, go down, move your arms and move your legs, and what you end up doing is disturbing the bioluminescence plankton, and when they're disturbed they emit blue light. So just like on the beach with Leonardo DiCaprio, the whole ocean just becomes like blue stars. You've disturbed the plankton by moving your arms and legs, that there's just blue stars everywhere and everything becomes alive. Yes, Lou, it's so magical. I'd love to show it to you all, but sadly I'm in the bush. So I absolutely will. I'd love to show you a video of that one time. I'll try my hardest to find a video, but it's magical, so that's why I prefer snorkeling. You can do the same diving, but you're just weighted down. It's not got the same feeling as it has when you're snorkeling. Apparently we have 40 seconds left. What a fantastic drive. Now I do apologise, James and I had to switch out, but it did work in our favour. We both got to see Kuchava, and James got to see the little hyena cubbies as well that I don't think he's managed to see during the day. Now of course I will be closing the show, but on behalf of James and Owen, we all say thank you from our side, Davi and I, and the ladies in FC, but also from Taylor at Eco Training Karongwe, and of course Eric at andBeyond in Ngala. So thank you from all of us. Thank you for all your comments and questions, and I will be out in the morning, and I do hope you join me. Good night for now.